The initial entry in our exploration of opening numbers is also the most straightforward among them. When delving into the realm of musical theater, one particular composer often bears the brunt of criticism within an already scrutinized art form. That composer is none other than Andrew Lloyd Webber, and the opening number we're discussing here is Heaven on Their Minds from his renowned work Jesus Christ Superstar. I must confess that I don't particularly admire Andrew Lloyd Webber's work. Over time, his creations seem to lack originality and inspiration, diminishing in theatrical impact. Consequently, Webber's legacy in musical theater appears more as a lucrative enterprise rather than a genuine artistic endeavor. However, it's worth noting that his early works were truly groundbreaking. While Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is often considered his debut in musical theater, it was initially presented as a cantata. Jesus Christ Superstar, on the other hand, stands out as his genuine theatrical debut, and in my opinion, his finest work. The reason why this show succeeds is its concise nature and its utilization of relatively unexplored folk and rock influences at the time, offering a secular interpretation of the Christ narrative. In the 1960s, as traditional norms were challenged by the emerging youth movement and hippie culture, attempts to reframe the Christ story were made by Stephen Schwartz and others. Despite their merits, particularly Schwartz's Godspell, these endeavors didn't quite capture the spirit of the times. The strength of myth lies in its resonance with the prevailing cultural ethos. Yet many previous interpretations of the Christ narrative remained reverential and religious in nature. Jesus Christ Superstar stands out as the initial endeavor to depart from the traditional religious framework and approach the Christ narrative from a fresh perspective. Primarily drawing from the Gospel of John, which presents unique challenges in portraying the life of Christ, this musical delves into the human aspects of Jesus' character and his significance. Notably, it refrains from depicting miracles or his resurrection, avoiding overt assertions of divinity. Instead, the focus lies on Jesus' political views, his interactions with followers, and possibly his steadfastness in beliefs. This approach to the Christ narrative isn't entirely novel, however. Its artistic roots can be traced back to early Expressionism, notably in the work of German playwright Karl Steinem, who penned a version of the John Passion play titled Judas Iscariot. However, what sets Jesus Christ Superstar apart is its attempt to uncover a meaning behind the story that resonates with reality rather than spirituality. Yet, despite its efforts, the play struggles to find this deeper significance. Following the harrowing trial scene and the lashes, Judas, in the climactic 11 o'clock number, questions why Jesus didn't arrive at a more opportune moment to spread his message to a wider audience. Moreover, Judas ponders the essence of Jesus' message itself. Throughout the production, audiences are confronted with Jesus' frustrations, indulgences, stubbornness, and aloofness, devoid of the traditional portrayal of him as a miracle worker. However, it's possible that I've delved too deeply into an analysis of the entire work when my intention was to focus on why Heaven on Their Minds is particularly effective. The musical commences with Judas observing Jesus and his followers, and he questions why these influential figures appear indifferent to their surroundings. The song probes whether Jesus truly cares for his followers, given his apparent ignorance of the impending violent backlash against their movement. Moreover, it questions why Jesus refrains from providing explanations for his actions. Ultimately, the song concludes by pondering why Jesus, if he seeks change, remains enigmatic in his approach. Overall, Heaven on Their Minds evokes feelings of frustration, yearning, and anguish. In my initial video discussing the topic of opening numbers and what makes them effective, I emphasized that a strong opening number should encompass 3 key elements. Firstly, it should establish the setting and context of the story. Secondly, it should introduce the central themes that will be explored throughout the musical. And thirdly, it should present the main conflict or question that will drive the narrative and require resolution by the end of the show. All right, let's analyze Heaven on Their Minds using these criteria. This song serves as the opening dialogue that sets the stage for the entire production. It raises fundamental questions such as why Jesus communicates his message in an inefficient manner and why he allows himself to be sacrificed in a seemingly senseless manner. This establishes a rich foundation for the world of the story. Additionally, it portrays Judas as an outsider to Jesus' followers and sheds light on his motivations. Jesus' silence in response to Judas' queries highlights the perceived inefficiency of his message, suggesting a disconnect between his teachings and their reception. Furthermore, Judas' perspective implies that followers of Jesus may be somewhat delusional. Throughout the show, the followers rarely express individual voices, instead forming a unified chorus. This collective portrayal reaches its peak in the second act, where they are depicted as noticeably intoxicated, emphasizing their group mentality. Heaven on Their Minds adeptly establishes the theme of Jesus Christ Superstar, both literally and allegorically. The driving bass rhythm introduced in this song recurs throughout the show during moments of conflict and opposition. The song embodies the perspective of outsiders observing Jesus' actions, portraying a one-sided narrative focused on trying to comprehend events with little success. While the second act does feature an extended aria from Jesus, it primarily expresses his frustration and confusion rather than providing any sort of clarity. This suggests a deterministic interpretation of the Christ myth, wherein Jesus himself may not fully grasp the unfolding events. The most notable aspect of Heaven on Their Minds is its establishment of conflict. Unlike other musical interpretations of the Christ narrative, which often commence with uplifting choruses heralding the onset of something holy, such as Prepare Ye the Way of the Lord from Godspell, Jesus Christ Superstar begins with an impassioned rock ballad infused with themes of failure, confusion, and pain. This sets the tone for the entire production, emphasizing the discord and turmoil that permeate the story. Importantly, the audience is positioned as outsiders attempting to comprehend the unfolding events, paralleling Judas's perspective. This dynamic becomes particularly evident when the song is staged with Judas observing rather than directly addressing the audience, highlighting his proximity to their experience. Jesus Christ Superstar is a production deeply rooted in its time, much like Rent, and attempting to revive it out of its era diminishes its relevance. At the time of its release, societal shifts were underway, with the youthful idealism of the Flower Children movement giving way to cynicism and frustration. The era was marked by sobering realities such as the Vietnam War, the prevalence of cocaine, and the Watergate scandal. Additionally, the UK was on the brink of a severe economic downturn. This backdrop of societal upheaval and uncertainty permeates the opening number of Heaven on Their Minds. Its inclusion in this list of top 10 opening numbers in musical theater is justified by its ability to encapsulate the angst and disillusionment of its time.
My mind is clearer now. At last, all too well, I can see where we all soon will be. If you strip away the myth from the man, you will see where we all soon will be. Jesus! You started to believe the things they say of you. You really do believe this talk of God is true. And all the good you've done will soon get swept away. You've begun to matter more than the things you say. Listen, Jesus, I don't like what I see. All I ask is that you listen to me. And remember, I've been your right-hand man all along. You have set them all on fire. They think they found the new Messiah, and they'll hurt you when they find they're wrong. I remember when this whole thing began. No talk of God, then we called you a man. And believe me, my admiration for you hasn't died. But every word you say today gets twisted round some other way, and they'll hurt you if they think you've lied. Nazareth, your famous son, should have stayed a great unknown, like his father carving wood. He'd have made good tables, chairs, and oaken chest would have suited Jesus best. He'd have caused nobody harm, no one alarm. Listen, Jesus, do you care for your race? Don't you see we must keep in our place? We are occupied. Have you forgotten how put down we are? I am frightened by the crowd, for we are getting much too loud, and they'll crush us if we go too far. If we go too far. Warning I give, please remember that I want us to live. But it's sad to see our chances weakening with every hour. All your followers are blind, too much heaven on their minds. It was beautiful, but now it's sour. Yes, it's all